All right, good afternoon. It's 3 p.m. and I'll call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting study session for Thursday, August 14th, 2025. May I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen, Director Duff,
Here.
Director Mart,
Here.
Vice President Griffith,
Present.
President Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. And we don't have any remote participation today by the board, so we'll skip item 3. Item 4, the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll do on Monday. Item 5, Rules of Procedure. Counselor?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the board, all noticed meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. All questions and remarks should be addressed to the president as the presiding officer. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting.
Thank you. Item 6, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board today?
President Sewell, I see none online.
It doesn't look like in person, so we'll move on to item 7 we'll actually do on Monday, Human Resources Report. And I forgot to double check. Are we doing a closed session to start?
We are not doing closed session today or
Okay.
on Monday. The hearing that was going to be referenced was postponed. We're going to meet with the owner of that building separately before, and they've pulled back their hearing request. So there will be no closed session.
Okay. So we'll move on to action items. Item 8 will be a public hearing on Monday, and that's a report on public health goals. It is recommended to conduct a public hearing to receive public comment on the public health report and then receive and file the report. Do we have a report on that?
We do have a short summary of what we'll be presenting on Monday. Our Director of Operations, Danny Friend, will be giving this summary. Danny?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board. On Monday, I do plan to present a report and the findings of the public health goal. Today, I'm just a little background what we've got going on. Per the California Health and Safety Code, specifically Section 116470B, every 3 years, the last time we did this was in 2022. Every 3 years, a public water system serving more than 10,000 service connections that detect one or more contaminants or constituents in drinking water that exceed the applicable public health goal shall prepare a brief written report that does each of the following. Identify constituents detected in drinking water that exceed the public health goal. Disclose the public health risk category. Describe the best available technology for treatment. Provide cost estimates for said treatment. And propose action that will be taken as a conclusion of the report. As I said, I'll present the findings of the 5 constituents that were found between calendar years 2022 and 2024. For those that have looked at attachment A, those constituents are fluoride, uranium, gross alpha, radium-226, and radium-228. With all public health goals, with all public hearings, we have a requirement to notice in the newspaper, which this was noticed twice in the Desert Sun on August 5th and August 12th, meeting that requirement. Just a little bit more, the report will present comparisons of our 3 public water systems, the water quality against the public health goals and the maximum contaminant levels. In my presentation, I'll explain the differences between those and what they are and what they mean. Of the 5 constituents that were detected at levels exceeding their respective public health goals, they all remain below the enforceable maximum contaminant levels for drinking water, which is our enforceable levels. And again, attachment A is a breakdown of the actual report. Just informing you of what the additional attachments are. I provided the CCRs for 22, 23, and 24. There's an excerpt from the Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessments. And Aqua does a great job of providing the water agencies with guidance on this triennial process. And next, what do you call it? Health and risk from public health exceedance reports, and then a proof of publication. So this is mainly a requirement is a receive and file. And on Monday, I'll present that, the full report.
Okay, great. I'm sure we'll get a lot more information on Monday, but did we have any questions or comments from the board today? Director Duff?
Just one. We have some members of our public here today. Can you give them and those watching the definition of PHG, where that came from, how long it's been since it was last tested or last reviewed? If you could.
I will not be able to tell you when it was the last test or review. I wanted to say 2006. I'll bring that for sure on Monday.
I could only
So-
think 2006, so
Yeah.
you may be right.
I believe it's 2006, so I apologize. I should have actually brought my presentation. I actually had some of the things that you're asking. So a public health goal is a desired level they would like us to get to. It's
And
I'm sorry, the Cal EPA, EPA, Cal EPA, and of course the Division of Drinking Water. They're non-enforceable. We do have not five each year, but we have five collectively over the 3 years. The difference between it and the maximum contaminant level that we are held to is we cannot exceed those, otherwise we'd receive a violation. So it has been some time since they reviewed some of them. Some of the constituents that are on there have zero,
Mhm.
and for one is gross alpha. There's really no public health goal level for it. So, but that's the main thing is it's a goal that they would like to see us get there as we respond to different regulation. I assume they'll have an effect somewhere in the next decade to where maximum contaminant levels get adjusted to.
I would love to have you make sure that on Monday's presentation, we include some of those definitions. When the study was done, the group that came up with that study, just for some clarification, because there's a lot of confusion with all the water testing. Free test your water facilities out there. Home Depot even offers them in the aisle, right? And then you find out that, yeah, that's free for the consumer because they want to sell you something to put in your home for water purification or what have you. And they're not basing their reports that they give our customers or water users on MCLs or even on the public health goals. It's not real clear where they are getting their data. So I just wanted to make sure that we clearly differentiate the two for the public when we're going forward on Monday.
I'll jokingly say, have you looked at my presentation? Because I actually have a couple of slides that have side-by-side tables.
Awesome.
So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Vice President?
No.
Director Martin? Director Mayo?
Oh, thank you for the good work.
Thank you, Danny. Item 9, public hearing will be on Monday, and that's the amendment to Water Regulations and Services Ordinance. It is recommended to conduct a public hearing and adopt ordinance number 2025-02, amending ordinance 93-3, Water Regulations and Services, Section 3, definitions, Section 8, fire protection, and Section 9, cross connection control. I'm assuming Danny's giving a presentation.
He'll give you a short summary,
Okay.
keeping the presentation to make sure it makes the official record as part of the public hearing.
Correct. Thank you again, Mr. General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, once again. The public hearing is a requirement of an ordinance change. So in our water ordinance, it takes an ordinance to make the changes. What we're specifically going to be talking about on Monday is the Division of Drinking Water, or State Water Resources Control Board, Division of Drinking Water, adopted a new requirement called Cross Connection Control Policy Handbook. For the 30 years plus that I've been in the water industry, we've always used the Administrative Code Title 17 to give guidance on cross connection control. I'll reserve my opinion on some of the changes and why they make some of the changes, but they are intended to be put in place to create safer standards for our public. Most of the changes that are happening in sections 3, 8, and 9 are administrative. simply correcting the name of a document that had a new name since it was originally put into the ordinance. It has removing Title 17, going to the Cross Connection Control Policy Handbook. It had changed the definition to be clearer and align more with the Cross Connection Policy Handbook for cross connection. And there's one item that says how we would, if we found a failed backflow prevention assembly, that we would make the repair and the customer would then reimburse the district. We haven't operated that way in practice for several years. The customer's always been responsible for the cost. However, what this does in section 9 is clarifies that the customer would receive a letter and the responsibility to correct. So there's a bunch of small little changes. They used to refer to as a device, no longer called a device. It's called a backflow prevention assembly. For those in the room that want to understand the difference, the state describes a device as something that is backflow but not testable, and an assembly is also a backflow piece of equipment that is testable. So this is where they want us to be. They want us to be able to test the equipment to ensure that it actually is preventing backflow. I will say that part of the presentation that I'm going to give on Monday will address some questions that have been asked about the cross-connection control policy, and I'm going to talk more about what impacts it has done to our backflow program, our cross-connection program. I'm happy to say that our cross-connection program has actually been advanced, that it has minimal impact for the most part, because we've been operating under Title 17 pretty closely. So our program is operated that way. I know there's a lot more discussion in the Valley and other agencies where how it's a bigger impact because they may have not had as much of a robust backflow program. So with the public hearing, there is the requirement to notice the public hearing, and it also was in the Desert Sun on the 5th and 12th of August. And that's all I have for the brief summary today.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Director Martin, Director Mayo, Director Duff?
Thank you, Mr. Friend. Very quick, enforcement. Very much like our industrial waste program, I'm not seeing anything in here that is giving us the ability to fine the owners of these facilities who are not correcting. I'm noticing we can shut their water off, but that's kind of the rule with everyone. Is there something in place that will allow us to levy fines against owners while we're notifying them and make sure we're keeping them in compliance, or we simply just turn it off?
Currently, no. Currently, we work with the customer and provide them a time offer and extension. We also look at the severity. The biggest challenge for a water agency is the word potential. The state uses the word potential, and if the potential is there, the cross-connection control device is required. So
What is the potential? Let's say it's a restaurant. What is the potential of a backflow failing?
what is the potential harm? It could be that there are cleaning areas that have hoses. Sometimes they have an extension. If there were a backflow event, we could suck any of the cleaning devices. If it's a commercial site, they typically have a landscape that could have a commercial application where they inject chemical.
Okay.
And so anything like that in that application. But in general, anything that is not approved to be back into our system. So we are serving that pristine, non-contaminated water. And then once it leaves our system, we don't want it back. So if there's ever a potential, livestock, when residential homes, not all of them have them, but there are some that have them because of livestock. They run a hose into a horse feeder and they walk away, and
Overflow.
all you need to do is have that right potential moment where a hydrant gets hit and causes a back siphonage and we suck something out of the horse trough. All commercial and residential lots that have auxiliary source of water, commonly known here in our hot water zone as a well. So if they have that on their property, it's an auxiliary source of water. So they would be required to have a backflow. That's why there are several residential homes in our district that have backflow protection.
Thank you so much for that extra information. I do have concern about a lack of enforcement ability. So I would like to see us address that, maybe not with this ordinance here, but look at that, because without a way to enforce a regulation, it's just paper.
Monday will be a little clearer. I apologize again. In my presentation, I'll talk more about the requirements of the cross-connection control policy handbook. One of them, which we did on the date that it was required on July 1, 2025, was a cross-connection control plan. How, as an agency like Mission Springs Water District, going to comply with that? Because there are some areas that are going to be difficult, and later in possibly year 3 and 4 will require us to bring on more staff. So we've got other strategies, but the reason I bring that up is in the cross-connection control plan, which has not been approved by the state. It's one of those things where they said the state may take 2 years. All these agencies are submitting them at the same time. And so you have to work and act as in compliance with the cross-connection control policy handbook, all while your plan is waiting for approval. So and it's not difficult for the district because, as I said, our system, our program has been robust for over a decade, and I'm proud to say that we don't have a lot of huge impacts. There will be some that I'm talking about on Monday, but the point is bringing up the cross-connection control plan. I addressed the part about enforcement, and it talks about fines, and I said currently not at this time, and we'll be reviewing that in the future. As far as we have to define the impacts before we can actually arrive at what the nexus is, before we can arrive at what the actual impact is. So I'll work with the general manager, and I'll make sure we present that on Monday as far as future strategies on it.
Appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President?
I have something, yeah. Following up on what Director Duff was talking about, maybe you could give us a briefing on Monday on the enforcement efforts that we made with Candescent and how we apparently caught them not reporting something that they should be reporting on there because of the testing procedure that we have.
I'm very aware of that. I'm going to defer this to legal counsel as it's not necessarily pertaining to cross connection.
Yeah, it's not that particular enforcement matter wouldn't be on the agenda.
That's our industrial pretreatment program, which is not the same, and I'm not sure that would be.
Well, it deals with enforcement is what I'm talking about, and that's one of the things that she,
Yeah, I think we can talk generally about enforcement, answering the question that was asked, but not particular enforcement matters.
But
Okay.
that particular goes to a different program. That's our pretreatment program. And the pretreatment program follows a different enforcement section than our backflow prevention.
Yeah.
program.
So Article 6 of our sewer ordinances speaks specifically and addresses Article 11 of our enforcement, which is different than Article 9 of the water ordinance. So that's what I was saying. They're not connected, so it technically would.
What we can do is we can add it to the general manager's report on Monday. We'll add a pretreatment enforcement item underneath general manager's report, so we can talk about not that particular issue.
The only thing I want to say
the enforcement
about the issue is I was very, very impressed with staff's handling of that situation.
I'll be happy to pass that along.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Item 10, Resolution 2025-18, declaring the district's intention to proceed with a rate action in compliance with Proposition 218 and instruct staff to initiate the notice process and take all necessary actions to comply with Proposition 218 and Government Code Section 53759.1. I do want to say thank you. We have some members of our CLEAR committee here, and just thank you for coming and your involvement so far and your volunteering your time. We have a presentation.
We do have a presentation that will touch on the CLEAR committee, touch on a lot of the things we discussed at our workshop last week, in addition to some new items that was requested by the board. So with that, we can start our presentation with Assistant General Manager Marion Champion. Marion?
General Manager Macy. Thank you, General Manager Macy. So today we are going to do a very similar presentation to what we provided last week in our workshop. However, we've updated several of the areas based on feedback we received, both from the CLEAR committee and from this board. Next slide, please. We're going to look at some general overview and requirements, the implementation timeline, the water and sewer outlook, our Help to Others program, of course, our community engagement, and we'll leave definitely some time for some questions and answers. Next slide, please. I also asked, we've asked our general counsel to talk a little bit about our fiduciary responsibility as a board. And John, are you available to make those?
Sure.
That
Yeah.
presentation?
So, sometimes agencies that are providing utility services think, well, gee, we want to be the lowest rates in town and have that sort of approach to things. But actually, with a county water district, there is a mandate that's imposed on the board. And that mandate is set forth in Water Code Section 31007. And that requires, it's mandatory language. The statute refers to shall, and the board shall fix the rates to yield an amount sufficient to cover the operating expenses of the district, to provide for repairs and depreciation of works, and then service any debt. And then case law has made it clear also that you can establish a reasonable and prudent reserve for the district. But sometimes folks think, well, gee, we can lower the rates as low as we want. No, you actually can't. Your primary obligation is to make sure, and the way I would summarize 31007 is you have to set the rates high enough so that the district is able on a going forward basis to provide the essential services it provides.
Thank you. Again, looking at this process, we've got some different steps that we have to take. We start off with our framework on our financial master plan. We look at our planning and our revenues that are coming in. And then from there, we can start looking at the cost of service and rate design before we move into the rate adoption. One of the things I really wanted to point out, though, is that throughout this entire process, we're following the Prop 218 and AB 2257 and staying within compliance. And we also are working with our community engagement. So we started community engagement here at the very beginning, and that's where our Clear Committee members, many of whom are here today, that's where they've come into play. As you remember, back in July, we assembled the Clear Committee. They gave up their own time on Tuesday evenings and came in, shared a meal with us, and learned a lot about MSWD. And we have several members here. Thomas has got a financial background in the back. I won't hold that against him, right? We've got Barbara next to Thomas, Donna, Myrna, Frank, and we've got several other members who couldn't make it here today, but they are probably going to watch the videotape and they're planning to be here on Monday. So we appreciate all of your time here. And later, if there's something you'd like to add, we would hopefully we will be able to have some time to add that as well. So looking towards the water side of the business, this actually brought up a lot of discussion last week, so I went ahead and moved water prior to sewer. We did talk a little bit about during our workshop that the volumetric and the base rate, when a customer pays money to MSWD, there's two portions of their rate. There's the base rate and there's the volumetric rate. That base rate is about 29% of their bill, whereas the volumetric price is about 71% of their bill. One of the things that we really took a look at when we were looking at our revenues and our rates is, could we make that adjustment, especially with drought and with conservation as a way of life and worrying about, can we move some more things into that fixed rate? The problem with that is that it'll really negatively impact our low water use customers. One of our Clear Committee members, she actually uses 3 CCF each month, and she's got a very, very low water consumption. Someone like her, she would be penalized because she uses such little water, whereas someone who's a large water user, they would actually benefit from moving more of that into. So at the time when we looked at that, we decided to keep that here, but of course it's always under the board's purview. We can always make those kinds of changes. Again, here's our existing rates. Most of our customers fall in within that 0.75 or 3/4 inch rate. That is 99.74% of our meters fall into that 0.75 inch rate. since 2020, we see an overall increase in our customer prices by more than 20 to 24% in our CPI. And I think that's really important, especially when you look at historically where we're at with our rates and where we got here. We did our financial master plan back in 2012, and we did our water cost of service study in 2015. And that was part of a 5-year rate increase that finished in 2020. So the difference between 2020 and now, there's been a lot of changes, especially from an inflationary standpoint, both from construction that impact us on every level, everything from construction to the supplies we have in the break room, all the way to our employee benefits. We're really being impacted by that. Looking at the volumetric rates, you'll see our average customers use under that 13 CCF in volumetric tiers in our single family residents. That accounts for over 68% of our usage are our customers who are in that residential tier 1 category using 0 to 13 CCF per month. Just for those that are not familiar with it, the CCF is 748 gallon, 1 billing unit. So you'll hear us sometimes say 1 billing unit. I just wanted to bring that forward. This was in response, Director Martin, we did go back and we revised this slide a little bit to show you just specifically the Coachella Valley water agencies. You'll see CVWD, Coachella Water Authority, MSWD, Myoma Dunes, Desert Water Agency, and Indio Water Authority. We also did a little bit of digging, did some research on when was the last time each of these agencies conducted a cost of service study or a financial master plan, and if it's been a while, what their plans were in the future. CVWD is currently right now on the 5th year of an increase that finished up with July 1st of 2025. So their rates there, this is their last increase on their last cost of service study. And they ranged anywhere from 5 to 5.5% on those updates when they made those. Coachella Water Authority, they are based on a January 2015 cost of service study. They're currently in the middle of a brand new rate study. They just brought on a new consultant, and I was told that they would like to have something in place as early as January of 2026. Myoma Dunes, I did not get any current information except for the fact that their rates have been effective since June of 2016. And they started their rate increases back in 2010. So their rates are pretty stagnant as well. Desert Water Agency, they adopted their 5-year rate increase in fiscal year 2024. So theirs is ranging from 2024 through fiscal year 2028. And Indio is just started a brand new 5-year, they just went up on 7/1/2025, so this fiscal year, and they have a brand new 5-year rate study that starts now, and so they'll be there through calendar year of 2029. They are 5% increases annually.
That's India.
That's Indio.
Do you know what Desert Water is?
Desert Water Agency is 4.8% from fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2028.
And they're on their 2nd year?
This is on their 2nd year, yes. And then the other question that was asked when we were looking at this was the utility user tax rates. So in the city of Indio, there is a 6% billed on consumption amount, plus they pay also an additional 5-cent Indio service fee based on the total billed consumption. And then for the city of Coachella, they collect a 5-cent based on the total billed amount. Palm Springs and both Cat City, Palm Springs has a utility user tax of 4.5, and Cat City has one that's 3%, but neither of those cities have elected to charge it on their water or sewer rates. They are doing that on their telecommunications, electricity, gas, and waste disposal, but they don't charge it on water or sewer. That was a lot of information. Do you want me to pause?
Do we have any questions so far?
No, I just want to compliment you for putting this together. Because when a lot of times it's important to show dollars and cents rather than percentages, although it's handy to have both. But I like this information. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, just to clarify, you listed the others, but to remind everyone, Desert Hot Springs is 7.
Yes,
And if I did my research correctly, is all of that 7% required to go to safety measures? Do we know?
I don't have that in front of me, but
Just curious.
we give it to them and they have it in their ordinance, how it's spent.
Okay, thank you.
It's not based on anything that we've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, this is the same slide that you saw last time. You know, we took a very we took a very mindful approach with looking at what we expect from expenses and revenue escalation. You see, we have general, we have salary, benefits, those utility costs that are going to continue to come up, but then hopefully come back down as we get our solar project energized. And then, of course, our construction costs moving forward. And then I'm going to hand it back to Brian to talk about CIPs.
Thank you, Marion. Just as a summary of our CIPs, this is our water fund CIP. So starting at the very top, you have our new administrative building. As we've talked about in the past, the board has decided to, we're moving forward with 60% on the water and then 40% on the sewer. So what you see here is you see 60% of that. And then when you look at those numbers, we've talked about a budgetary number of $40 million in 2025. The escalation that you just saw on the previous slide is in these slides. So you see things that continually go up in cost, just so we account for them appropriately. Chrome 6 compliance project. You see some money that we've already spent to date. You'll have another contract in front of you moving forward to help us continue to be compliant. And then you see some of the actual construction activities starting in 28 and then again in 32 and then again in 35. Then you have CIP projects that were mentioned in our master plan from 30 to 30, from 35 to 36. Those were added together because a lot of that is things that we expect to happen over time, whether it be water main breaks, whether it be other routine maintenance, just things that normally happen through the process that aren't a specific project. You also see water line replacement and easements. That was a board directive to start moving forward and replacing water lines in rear yards. That is a risk for us if we do not do that. Any leak typically in a backyard stays in a backyard, and we want to get that water out and get those sewer or to get the water main in the road right of way as our normal standard is today. You have rehabilitation of wells 28 and 30. We are going to try to complete the rehabs in this particular fiscal year, and then we'll do the above ground improvements, because if you've seen the corner of Mission Lakes Boulevard and Indian, you'll see one of our wells that are there. It's exposed to all the elements. It's one of our older wells, one of our older designs. It does not have a house. It does not meet our standards as we would build one today. So we want to make sure that the above ground is more similar to what we would expect now and protect that. So you see that coming in 2033 for both of those wells. That we believe will be at that time a requirement of the Skyborn property. That would be one of those capacity issues that they are required to have. So when we go into the actual cost and dashboard, you'll see some costs allocated in 2033 to basically pay for those improvements. You also see some other projects that we've talked about in the past that decided not to move forward, or excuse me, going ahead of myself, into the waterline replacement. We talked about this a little bit in our workshop. That is connected to the M2 septic to sewer project that we're getting funded from the sewer side. This is to enhance that project and actually start, if you will, the waterline easement replacement projects. There are some locations in that M2 area where there are rear yard easement or water mains and rear yard easements. We're going to be moving those while we install the sewers. You see 35, 36, similar to what we saw CIP 30 above, again, spreading out a cost over a 5-year period. That starts in 35. Well 35, equipment installation. That well was drilled as part of Skyborn. It's going to be equipped in the coming years to make sure that we have that available capacity. Again, that is a developer-driven project and will be reimbursed to us through an existing escrow account that we have today. Terrace reservoirs 1, 2, and 3. We'll be moving forward with repairing those once we get grant funding. This project was previously bid back in Danny, I'm looking at you, Terrace Reservoir was bid in 2019, 2020, just before COVID. And the reason I'm bringing that particular project up is the bids came in at $5.7 million. 5.64, thank you. And the engineer's estimate was 3.3. So that's why that project is still there, is because one, when we bid it, it came over what we estimated. COVID hit at about the same time, and we've not moved forward with that project because now we have hopefully we'll be getting some grant funding and paying for a portion of those costs. But that's the only reason why that particular project's delayed. Well 42 is still a budgeted item that we hope to complete this year. That's been under construction for the last 3 years. Then you have other emergency repairs as line items in the budget. Then you have the intertie, which connects well 34 and 35. And then other projects that we've had on the books and talked about in more general terms, energy backup at generators at 3 of our well sites, the CityWorks project GIS project that you hear about later in the agenda, and then other capital improvement projects as well that we are aware of in the next 5 years, so we can make sure to put them into our rate structure. Talking about reserve policy and targets, our reserve policy and targets were based on an adapted reserve fund that was established back in 1995. This came up as a line in our original dashboard that we shared with the CLEAR committee, and then we also shared with the board. What we realized in going through that, thanks to Arturo Sejar, Director of Finance, he mentioned that should have been an accumulative number dating back to 95, not just something that we started in this particular year in 2025 or 24 as it shows in the dashboard. We have upgraded that, and you'll see what that number is, and it is over $30 million. So you will see that line that used to be starting around the $2 or $3 million number and increasing. It starts at 35 now. The reserve fund is funded every year as part of our budget, in addition to a depreciation number that also is budgeted every single year. So going back to the dashboard, one of the things that the board, I think we focused when we were talking before, was where the CLEAR committee ended, which was at 9%, but the board said, what was the status quo? What did it look like? So this is what it looks like, if you will. There's a couple things of note, just starting at the beginning and where you see FY 2025 collective rate increase. When we go through the subsequent other percentages that we looked at from a revenue adjustment perspective, you'll see that escalates to give you an idea of how much the overall increase from today's bill. You see the rate adjustments, which is by percentage, and then you see the monthly cost. I know Director Martin wanted to know exactly what the monthly cost would be, so I just want to make note that monthly cost is now the 4th column down, and you'll see it proceed out. And once you start seeing increases in costs, you'll see those monthly costs increase accordingly. Again, that monthly cost is only our cost. It does not include the UUT tax or the utility tax that the city puts on it, nor does it include the rack fee that DWA adds to our bill as well. Other things that stayed the same from a previous presentation, you'll see the bond proceeds. For example, when we start talking about the new administrative building, we expect to go out and take on some debt. We talked about before that half of that project would be by past ratepayers, and then future ratepayers would be the bond proceeds. Grant funding was included. You'll see $1 million, you'll see 5.9, then you'll see 0.9. Again, those are more associated with the terrace reservoirs and other improvement projects that we have. And then you have developer reimbursements. You see the 1.6 for something like 35, then you see the 4.1. Those would be for the rehabs for wells 28 and 30. Continuing to move down this, you'll see in this particular slide, you see a lot of red. The reason there's a lot of red is we have zero. If we were to do nothing and have no rate adjustments, so forth, we would then be basically just drawing down our reserves. So following down to the lower right-hand corner, you see the ending fund balances. Starting where we are today, you see the reserve target. As we talked about, that reserve target starting where we are, that's the cumulative cost of where it would be today, dating all the way back to 1995. We would be starting at roughly $32 million, and then the operating reserve and the capital reserve adding to that, you see that number being basically close to $38 million and continuing to increase as we continue to add infrastructure and add to our reserve policy. One of the things that was talked about from the Clear Committee was, what is your really emergency cash? What number do you want to have in case something happens? And we talked specifically about the Terrace Reservoir, as that is a location where we then have two different booster stations that boost the water up into the higher elevations in both directions. To rebuild substantially that location, we put in a number of around $10 million. The rehabs you saw in the earlier slide were simply to take the existing infrastructure and add to those. $10 million is what we would expect if we did have a catastrophic event and start to have to do something at that location. We would need to start with $10 million and then subsequently increasing that with inflation. So this is the status quo if we did nothing. Go ahead,
Can I ask a quick
please.
question? Do you recall when Tropical Storm Hillary hit and that we kind of came off really easy on that? How many millions of dollars were spent in our repair work after that emergency?
Actually, it wasn't millions of dollars.
Okay.
It was around, I believe, somewhere in the realm of around, it was less than $1 million. I want to say
800,000.
a lot of the estimates were like 900,000 and it came in somewhere close to that, almost $1 million. Of those three, two of the pipes were washed away. Excuse me. One was washed away. One was exposed, and the other one, the scour depth changed, so we had to lower that water line. We did get reimbursed on two of the three. Because the third one was just a scour depth issue, we just had to lower it. FEMA has told us that they're not going to reimburse us for that, even though it was a required improvement as part of the Riverside County flood control.
Well, and they may not even exist in the near future, so I'm not
That's true,
worrying
too,
about any of the
but-
money from them, but I was just more trying to get a mental image on something where we came out better than we anticipated.
Yes, yes.
It was still almost $1 million for not major terrace reservoir, major
Correct.
reservoir stuff. So I just was trying to get a mental image, and I had to do it while it was in that screen. So
And one of the
apologize. Thank
questions
you.
that we had, I believe it was in the Clear Committee, we focused really on the terrace reservoirs and those activities because that's what feeds going up the hills, if you would. If we had a catastrophic earthquake and we had pipes all over the system being broken and things like that, yes, we would have a catastrophic issue and that would take us years to recover from. However, we do have provisions we have 13 wells. We're going to be adding on another and then another, and then two others are going to be rehab. So we'll have 17 wells in the very near future. If we did have that catastrophic earthquake, what we would do is we would simply open up the wells, open up hose bibs, put connections there so people could get water at that point. So people would still have water. It just may not be out of their own taps. So we could have set that emergency cash number anywhere, but that's why we focused on Terrace Reservoir, as that is an essential part of getting the water to the higher elevations. So from that perspective, that's why that number is where it is. That could have been a lot of other places, but we settled on that just to basically book in where we are from a target perspective. But we were cognizant of what it would take to replace our entire system, and probably let's hope that never happens and we never have to deal with it. And we did get off compared to some of the other agencies that had to deal with catastrophic event over the last 20, 30 years very well. We have lost reservoirs in the past during earthquakes. The Northridge earthquake in the 90s, we lost 2 reservoirs. 80s. I'm going to start bringing you up for these technical discussions because obviously my memory is not serving me well today.
It comes with age,
I'm sorry, I should have spoke at the dais. Yeah, we've had our biggest issue here was the 86 earthquake that leveled out, which our reservoir today out in our Painted Hills area at Overhill, just down the road from it, used to be it's the old reservoir and it leveled out. So we've encountered different pipe breaks and things of that nature, but I'll share part of, I lived through the 92 earthquake and I actually got a start in the water agency. I took a leave of absence to go work for High Desert Water District. And at that time, they were dealing with several reservoirs that had failed. They had actually 3,500 leaks. They had brought in any and everybody that could operate, like the gas company, other utilities, private contractors that come in and just try to get on top of the water leaks. But some areas where the water reservoir wasn't there any longer, it didn't matter. But in areas where there were still like reservoirs, there was water leaks. So in some areas, if you drive down Old Springs Road, Highway 247, you'll see what I remember going back. It used to be straight shots of or straight sections of the road where there was 12-foot and 13-foot lateral shifts of the road. And so that event surprisingly didn't cause a lot of damage here, but you could have one 5.0 at a neighboring city and probably cause just as much damage. So you never know, but it's the pipelines, it's the reservoirs, it's the sloshing, it's all that things. So, but yeah, we
It's a modest
encountered.
number.
I'm sorry.
10 million is a modest number.
Um, I believe so, but I'm gonna let the general manager speak also.
No, it is a number that we wanted to stay above, and I think that's the important thing that came out of the Clear Committee is they realized that they wanted to level reserves and stay what we thought was a manageable amount of emergency cash, knowing that we based on Terrace Reservoir. The three reservoirs that were mentioned in the CAP were to make those seismically more fit, if you will. I believe we're going to be looking at taking those up to a 9 to handle an earthquake of a 9. So anything worse than that, all bets are off anyway. But from that perspective, we are trying to enhance our existing system, even outside of what you see as a suggested emergency cash.
Real quick, I'm
ahead.
just gonna say that the amount of information and details, if you have a question or comment, I'd rather us get it while the slide is up than waiting to the end.
Okay,
So,
yes, please. Yes.
Formally be,
And
That'd be-
and that's a perfect time for me to also say, since I'm struggling with some of the operation issues, Arturo, if I miss anything from a finance perspective, please correct me as soon as I say it. So I must have already made one.
Oh,
No, not yet.
I do
Okay.
have one quick question. I really am happy to see that the red line is on there. But technically, not to open a whole can of worms, but the issue we had that the green line was stagnant was that we weren't increasing it every year. So technically, shouldn't that red line be trending
It
upwards?
actually does. If you,
Oh.
it's just because it starts at 38 and it ends at 40, you can't really see it
Okay.
going up, but
Okay.
it does go up. I
Gotcha.
believe
Oh, that's easier to.
it goes up a little bit as we start getting closer into a located band, it does go up. So yeah, whoops, sorry.
My fault.
So it does, because I thought the same thing. When you're looking at it, I'm looking at 3 straight lines, but in reality, it just doesn't move as much as you would expect it to.
Gotcha.
So this was one of the versions that I think we discussed with the Clear Committee, and that the board said, what does that look like? Because we did not provide it. So again, starting at the beginning, you see the collective increase. That's how much it increased each year, because it does continue to build on itself. You see the monthly cost starting at, for an average customer using single family resident using a 3/4 inch service with 13 CFS, continuing to go by. Again, the 8%, I want to just make sure we're clear on this. The 8% is a revenue growth, and we have 8% in here as a placeholder. When we go to actually the cost increases, it's not exactly 8% for this particular class, but that's really what it equates to from a revenue perspective. So continuing with seeing that you see the bond proceeds here, you see the grant funding, you see the developer, most of that stayed roughly the same. It's just what changed was the revenue adjustment. Then looking down, you see the debt coverage ratios being better because we have more revenue coming in each year. And then you do see a slight increase in the reserve target, which was expected. And then you now just see a better emergency increase, which is the same. What's really changed on this particular one is that you see that the reserve balance starting at 31, it doesn't go all the way off the chart and go to 0. It does significantly go down, which is sort of be expected. We talked about using past ratepayer money for the new building. We also talking about using some of those dollars for the Terrace Reservoir for some of the Chrome 6, because that was some of the money that we collected over the last particular rate increase. While we were able to support ourselves in the last 5 years without a rate increase, it did take away from some of the nest egg that we were accumulating while the Chrome 6 MCO worked its way through both the court system and then the repeal and now the recertification of that. looking at where we end up with the suggested emergency cash and seeing that it dipped down and didn't necessarily level out over the 5-year period, I think that was that's exactly how we ended up going to the 8%, which is the next slide. You see in the 8%, we're trying to build
9%.
those. I'm sorry, 9%. Going from the 9 to 8 to 9, you see that those reserves are coming back. And as our legal counsel talked about, we do have the responsibility to make sure we're growing our reserves and paying all of our bills. This clearly shows that those imbalances are going up again and more consistent, saying above not only the suggested emergency cash line, but also we're not drawing from any reserves to continue our operating funds. One of the things that we probably want to look at is the reserve target and also establishing an emergency cash balance, because that's something we do not have right now. But since we're looking at it from that capacity or from that lens, we may want to include that as we move forward in just normal operations. But so just for contrast, going back from this particular 8% to 9%, I always go to the where I can always judge it off a line 28, 29, and 30. You go 11, 12.5, 12.3. By going to the 9%, it's 11.7, but then it goes, 16 going down, but then you have the 11.7, then it goes back up for the next year, showing that we do have positive cash flow, which includes depreciation, includes making a contribution to our reserve target, and we are sustaining our cash flow in a positive manner. So I think that's the reasons why we ended up on the 9% from the Clear Committee. And that's what we're recommending right now moving forward with the Prop 218 process. At this time, it's probably a good place to stop to see if there's any questions on this particular issue. Remember, we will have another opportunity to talk about this on Monday. So if there's any questions or not any information here that you'd like to see, please let us know and we can do that for Monday.
Questions or comments, Director Meyer?
No.
Director Duff?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The third model is just the status quo, you're saying? Okay.
Just 8 and 9. So we'll do all three. Okay. Yeah. We're doing all three and we'll be able to do that. Okay, perfect. What you just said is she's doing it also for the Clear Committee because they cannot see from.
I have a question if you can go back.
Absolutely.
Debt coverage. Can you define that for me? Because I noticed that the debt coverage goes up with these increases. And I would imagine when I think of debt coverage, it's the amount that we would have to service. And I would thought it would go down. So
I will go ahead.
Thank you, General Manager Macy and President Sewell, members of the board. What that number represents is our ability to cover that much in debt. So that is what we could take on as debt and be able to pay it back throughout the life of the loan or the project.
okay. So yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and sometimes that percentage gets somewhat difficult to put your fingers on. For example, you'll see when we go to the sewer side, that 15 million that we brought in, that came in as revenue. So our debt coverage ratio went up because the revenue went up. Some of these spikes that you see here are directly related to the bond proceeds and when we receive those, or into a grant funding or development reimbursement. So his answer was spot on, but this shows some things that you have to look past at times because that impacts our revenue that's coming in and our debt didn't change. So that's why you see some of those spikes.
And from the perspective of the lenders, when they lend the money, they want to make sure we're going to be able to pay it back. So when they look at the number, they're saying, oh, they can cover up to 2%, 2 times, 4 times. That's not a percentage, it's the times of debt that we can take on and pay it back.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Vice President? And I don't, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I had to take a moment break. So if you've already answered this question, forgive me. Approving the 5-year rate increase once it's in effect. If at any time during that 5 years, the fiscal health of the district improves well beyond our anticipated level, the board would have the option of not imposing that rate increase for that year.
That's something that the board can decide to call a special meeting for. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Just to elaborate on that, say year 4, we can't push it a year and have a year of no increase and then still continue on, say, 2 more years if we did the first 3.
It's based on what the Proposition 218 process is, and that is limited to a 5-year window. And the publication and all the public notices that we'll be putting out over the next 6 weeks will be specific to the rate adjustments that we're talking about. So what you will see is you'll see a maximum cost that we can increase the rates to. At any time, we can lower that, we can move it, we can postpone it, and then let's say we don't do anything for 2, 3, 4. We could go back all the way to what's listed in year 5,
But we'd have to do it in year 5.
but we'd have to do it in year 5 because that's the way the public process works and the notification would be done. So in reality, we do have the ability to lower it any time. And we've basically set correct me if I'm wrong from a legal perspective, but we set the maximum threshold of what we could increase it to. We have the ability at any time to reduce that based off that legal justification
Right.
and public.
Yeah, just as long as you don't lower it below what I went over from 31007.
And please keep in mind, we looked at every single number that affects our rates for 10 years going forward. And I mean, we looked at everything from the toilet paper to pens to electricity, everything that you can imagine is part of that. And we did not leave anything to wonder whether it's correct or it's going to go down. We put all of those, numbers in there and expectations.
Okay. And Vice President, you have a question?
I have
So-
one last
sorry.
comment.
Go
One
ahead.
last comment to make. Thanks staff for answering just about every question that I had moving into this process. You guys did an outstanding job.
Vice President?
So the monthly cost that we're showing here, 4340, is both the fixed and the volumetric, right, on average?
Correct.
Okay, it's just so I'm not looking at this saying, wow, it goes up to $47 for a fixed cost. That would be harsh. Okay, thank you.
And then no real questions on this, but I'm just thinking, let's do the sewer presentation. But I know Monday we're going to discuss more, but I'd like today to maybe hear opinions of the board and even clear committee. I feel like we're stronger together, and maybe some of you have some comments that might help me digest this over the weekend to better come up with my ultimate decision. So if we want to discuss the 2 options of 8 or 9, but go ahead.
So do you want to discuss 8 or 9 now and go through or go wait?
I think let's do wastewater and then
and then
discuss
come back.
both
Okay. Fair enough.
opinions on everything all.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So here is the existing rate structure, and this would be just the base rate. So this goes into, I think, almost the question that Vice President Griffith came up with, what's the base rate, and then the monthly fixed charge and things like that. So this is what they would account to, and we're still, in reality, there is one thing that we have to work with our rate consultant that we caught on this. Why everything else goes up by a percentage. Again, it fluctuates. It's not all, in this particular case, 9%. It fluctuates a little bit between the classes because what the rate consultant has done is they look at where the usage patterns are and what the maximum peak and daily flows are. And that's how they went back and they characterized which one are your max users, because they tried to spread the cost around all of our service and tried to make it as equitable as you possibly can. They didn't want one meter size to basically protect or offset the cost of another meter size. So they looked at it at that granular level. With some of the larger warehouses that are coming into our system, we added the 8-inch sewer. That's why you say, or the 8-inch meter size. That's why you see not equitable. But the issue that we had after we were looking at this, when we put this slide together, that why the 6-inch was going out at a higher percentage, because that was the difference between the existing and 2026. the equitable of that going up by that percentage for a 5-year period exceeded what you would expect for the 8-inch based on what they set the expected 8-inch on. So we're gonna have to work through that with our rate consultant to make sure that that makes a little bit more sense from an equitability perspective. But that's really the issue that we had with this particular exercise. But other than that, it's consistent throughout. And then proposed revenue adjustment from a volumetric perspective. Again, we do have the 2-tier based system, both in the single family, the multifamily, and then we have its own irrigation and non-residential, which is roughly commercial. You see these going up roughly, again, not up here 9% because that's the overall revenue projection. There are percentages for each one of these. But what probably, knowing that the difference between the tier 1 and tier 2, one of the biggest thing that we've heard in a lot of the conferences we've attended is, you have to show a cost of service to justify that tier. So working with Arturo, working with Marion to come up with our conservation costs, and then working with our rate consultant, we broke down what basically we spend in a year for conservation. Based on our budgetary numbers and where we believe things are, we spend about 1.5 million on conservation. If you think about where we spend that, we don't spend a lot of that money at single family tier 1 or multifamily tier 2. It's the folks that have leaks or have excessive use that get either a phone call from us in tier 2 or get a letter from us or something that we're asked to go out and do a water audit. So you don't see a lot of added cost to a tier 1 in the multifamily or in the single family, but you do have a percentage cost added to the tier 2. Same thing with commercial. Commercial, we very rarely get costs alluded, but we do get some conservation. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? My bill's too high but they don't have irrigation. So the biggest cost and the biggest percentage of our conservation money did end up in the irrigation because that's what most people are calling about, especially when we're talking about conservation way of life. So all of our classes pay into that 1.5, but the percentage varies between the two. So just adding that's a slide that's not here, but it is something that differentiates between the tier 1 and tier 2 and how we split that $1.5 million cost. From a sewer perspective, very similar to the rate making process of the water side, still having a flat charge for the residential. We didn't change anything from that perspective. And then the non-residential customer classes are based on their actual monthly usage. That's basically based on their flow characteristics and their return flow to the wastewater treatment facility. Currently, we're looking at $50 for a single family resident per month, and then multifamily and mobile home are both considered multifamily. And then you have the non-residential sewer rates. You'll see anything from a retail store all the way to a school. There are some common numbers in this because some of the commercial and retail stores are the same, so there's overlap there. You'll see manufacturing be at a higher rate because one, they theoretically discharge a higher BOD and total suspended solid cost. You see mortuary being higher. There's other things in here, for example, like a motel with or without a restaurant. You see other things, park restroom, beauty shops, things like that. So in reality, this was the existing rate structure that we have, and we were able to use some of the similar cost allocations to get there. From a rate comparison perspective, I'm going to let Marion, she did a lot of the research and worked with our consultants to go over this slide. Marion.
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Very similar rate comparison as you saw in the water side, but this is on our sewer side. Looking at Mission Springs Water District, we're the first column there. Coachella Valley Water District is in the second column. CVWD, again, they just recently went through their rate making process. And so their fees are similar to that. Valley Sanitation, and that's one we hadn't heard before. They base their rates on two parts. They have a volumetric based on 70% of their water usage, and then they have a 30% of their charge is actually a fixed charge. So they have a combination on their rates. They're the only, to my knowledge, they're the only district here in the Coachella Valley that bases their rates that way. are in the process right now. They have just working with a new financial master plan, and they'd like to try to get something in place by July 1st of 2026 for new rates. So they're going through the process right now. So the rates you see here are their current rates. They have not adopted new rates yet.
And can you remind me what communities they serve?
Valley Sanitation is like Indio. That's their primary, is Indio, North Indio. And I think, do they have Bayama Dunes as well?
They do not.
They do not, so it's just Indio then. Then you have the Coachella, which is the same. Coachella has not raised their rates in several years, but they are working to bring in their new financial master plan, and they'd like to have something in place by next January as well. And then the city of Palm Springs, they work in conjunction with Desert Water Agency. So users actually pay a portion of their fees go to Desert Water Agency, and the rest go to the city for their sewer services.
And are they in process like the water side of Desert Water?
Desert Water Agency, they have a 5-year plan on theirs, and they are escalating, and they're in year 2 of their 5-year plan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it.
That's okay.
Yeah, so this is based on a single family resident with basic usage. As Marion talked about, the Valley Sanitary District does have a volumetric rate as well, but we base this cost on a similar 13 CCF as we did on our number as well. Using the same revenue and expense escalations that we used on the water side, nothing's changed here. Not going through too much of this, but again, the one thing that you do see dropping down which is unique to the utilities, is that once our solar projects come online, we do expect to see a little bit of a reduction in that escalation. Sewer CIP. I know that there were some concerns about some of the titles of some of our projects. We condensed this so those projects no longer show up, but obviously as we move forward and through a budget process, we will add those back in and make sure that those changes get made. But what you're seeing here is an $80 million sewer project. What you see is M2, which is in 2026, M2 AD15, 2 million or 3 million, 10 million, that's going to be reimbursed. And you'll see that show up in the dashboard. You'll see the demolition of an existing tank that we no longer use at the Horton facility, other maintenance and ground changes that we're going to be making, SCADA enhancements, things of that. The filtration project you see on here, D3 potentially coming back and doing something there. But really the cost that you're looking at from from a water or wastewater perspective is the unknown. The pipes that we want to go out in TV, the ones that we want to rehab when we find those issues. We do have placeholders in the master plan. This budget reflects those changes. And then, of course, the last line item is the 40% of our new headquarters coming out of the sewer fund, and then the appropriate proportions to where we think we're going to be at during that time frame, and then the appropriate debt service ratio. The debt we'll be taking on, again, with the same idea that a portion of it comes from our existing reserves and the other half come through a bond issuance. And you'll see that when we get to the dashboard. We have the same reserve policy for both our wastewater capital reserves as we do our water. So I don't think there's anything different on this one. So I'm just going to go through this. And here is the status quo. And looking through here, again, similar collective rate increase across the top, the monthly charge, the $50 per month. You see starting out, again, those do look like flat lines, but I can assure you they're not. The emergency target, again, much like we were talking about the Terrace Reservoir and how important that is, this is looking at the Dos Palmas lift station as it connects the two wastewater treatment facilities, and then an escalator for that. And then the reserve target, this fund is about 40% of our total budget, so you'd expect that number to be a little bit lower. So it does start at a lower elevation, but it does increase. And we do have the $28 million number to start in 2025. Again, it goes down relatively quickly because because of increasing costs. I apologize. When I was cutting and pasting this, I did not see that the number got too big in that one column. We'll fix that for the next presentation, but you can see how quickly our debt coverage ratio goes, not only below the 1.2 that we're required to have, but also below 0. And that's because we're taking directly out of reserves to make sure that we continue to operate, which, as we were just talking about, we cannot do legally. At a 6% dashboard, you'll see the 6% through 26, 27, 28, 30, and things of that nature. You'll see the collective increase, and then you'll see it going from $50 in 2025 today up to, 5016 up to 6713 in 2030 at a 6% rate increase. One of the things that's a note to this, why our reserves are high and we're cutting into those reserves with some of our capital improvement projects. One of the things that's interesting, and this is what I struggled with and I didn't figure it out until today, knowing that we have the $15 million line of credit into this reserve. How does that show up when I don't see the $15 million going away? What it collectively does is paying it back between 26 and 27. If you start at the 23.7 and minus 15, you get down to about 8. But what we do have is we have $6 million coming in as bond proceeds. If you look at the 2027 number, and then we also have proposed grants coming in. So what it does is it takes account for the big hit for the 15 across the board, and then it goes back up because it's taking on the bond proceeds and the grant funding. So it actually is correct. It just doesn't intuitively jump right out when you're looking at this. The one thing that this does show at 6%, we still have decreasing fund balances as we move forward into the 29 and 30. And that is what was a concern. While we have the available reserve capacity to do so, that is not what we're recommending. We would like to see that stabilize and continue to increase as we want to continue to build our operating reserve, especially when we get that close to the emergency repair target. So at 7%, again, looking at those numbers, it starts to stabilize at the bottom. It stays at 11.2, which means we are just meeting our cash flow issues. You see our debt coverage ratio starts to come back up at 7%. You see the change where it used to be in the $65 range. Now at year 5, the 7% increase collectively goes to 40.3. And you see that the monthly cost goes from $50 to just over $70. But you do see that we're able to meet all of our obligations and that our reserve fund balance is staying consistent and not continuing to go down. So this was the 7% number. And then again, we have the ability to look at these. And then if we need to take out additional debt issuance, we can. We have the ability to, which would then help us not use any of our fund balance and help stabilize even further. But I think for this particular for these models, we were asked by the board when we were first talking about this, what's the worst case scenario? And that's what this is really accounting for. And it goes back to what Arturo said, as we looked at just about everything we possibly could, because we always, every single budget we go through, we always budget for the worst, but we plan and budget for the worst case scenario. So what that means is we probably overestimate expenses and underestimate revenue. That's the way you run a successful business. That's the way we run the water district. Any questions on any of these particular dashboard slides? I know we're going to come back to them at a later time, but this would probably be the appropriate time. No? Okay, perfect. So what is the impact to a single family, to a multifamily? These are pretty consistent as we continue with a 7% revenue increase. They are elevating at a regular rate. Then you see the non-residential. Again, this is a 7% rate adjustment, but these do not all go at 7%. They do fluctuate. So if we were to do the math, they don't all come up to 7. There's a couple that are plus or minus 1%, but looking at them, knowing that the sewage strength has not changed that much and the PSQ hasn't changed that much, we tried to relatively smooth out these and keeping them relatively. There are still some connectivity between them. You still see a retail store being, well, it's on here twice actually.
It's awesome.
And there's another slide. Okay. So you'll see some things in here. You'll see a park restroom. You'll see some of the other things in here, markets. You'll see with restaurant, without, a school, a nursery, and a school. So they do change a little bit. They were different when we started. They're different now at the end. There are some nuances between the two and some of the strength and some of the usage, some of the hours of operation that we took into consideration in that. But these are roughly just continuing what the existing rate structure is and pushing it to the end. The one note that you don't see here is that there are a couple of unclassified classes. I don't know exactly how many customers there are. I know there's 4. So there are 4, and we actually, in the process of going through this, we want to make sure that they're classified appropriately. Also, as we continue to move forward through the conservation as a way of life, as well as our changing our finance system, we're going to be looking at all of our classifications to make sure that they mirror for what the state is asking us to do. But also, after going through this process, maybe we can limit this a little bit more if we're allowed to make sure that we capture a little bit. But again, following the old existing rate structure, we try to stay consistent.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On that. When I look here at, for instance, the mortuary, just 9.38. But you come down here to say the school is at 3.48.
Yes.
So how did we come about these numbers here as far as usage? Or, I mean, the mortuary is a dead business, right?
Ghosts.
Yeah. And
We do still have that class, and we still have a mortuary business. Based on what the state water board provided. Now, this is an older document, but it is something that Valley San is using, had used with their current rate increase and continuing to use. It is an industry standard in the state of California that's provided by the state water board that recommends what strength you use for just exactly this purpose. So based on that document, it gives you what the strengths would normally be coming out of a mortuary. Now, keep in mind that they have to still meet our pre-treatment limits, but they're going to be higher than a residential house or a school or any other type of, we expect them to come in right at that 665 level, if you will. So from that perspective, you expect the treatment required to get the oxygen demand, the bio-oxygen demand to make the bugs happy, to make sure they continue to eat the material or remove the total suspended solids. It's more energy to keep the aerators running and stuff like that when you have more strength. So that's what those numbers that are provided by the state are reflected in the changes in cost. I know I got some technical there, but yeah, go ahead.
So in layman's terms, a mortuary may be using formaldehyde or something that raises that up.
Whatever
Whatever
the only 2 things that we focus on are really the bio-oxygen demand and then the total suspended solids. That's the 2 that is commonly used when you're looking at what you have to treat, because it goes into a lot of different things. It goes into how much energy you use to put air into the system to keep the bugs happy, but also it relates into the level of effort, but more importantly, also the sludge removal, because you still have to get rid of that stuff once you treat it and those bugs start to die off. So in reality, if it's a higher strength, it takes more effort. That's the layman answer, I guess.
General Manager Mason, if I may, don't forget that if you don't use water, this is based on usage. You won't get any charge. So the more water you use in these commercial, then they're going to pay that amount, which is a residential minimum. Thank you, Danny.
So do you have some further information you could send me on how the state has come to these conclusions?
I can send you.
I find it very interesting that it's all over the chart here, and yet the amount of people that are really using it, and
I will.
what is the market putting into the sewer system that would
So
upset the bugs?
we do. So if they actually put in something that upsets the bugs, that's where you look at the pretreatment program, you look at our testing procedures, and then you look at the enforcement from a fining perspective, because we do go after those folks. So I will share with the board that document. It's referenced, like I said, it's referenced in our document. It's going to be referenced in Valley San. So it is a commonly used document, because we do not do testing at all of these different classifications. So yes, not a problem.
Thank you.
What qualifies as a membership organization?
The Elks Blood Lodge.
Yeah, there's very few that we have on some of these categories, but we do look at their bylaws and when they submit the application, we have to look at their type of business to determine whether they need a backflow, what all of the requirements. So we do go through that process.
But what is a membership organization?
It would be like the Rotary, if they had a water account, any business that has a building for this type
Oh,
of,
the Historical Society?
yes,
Okay.
right.
And without, now I just have a question. The Elks have a restaurant,
Right.
so
So
do
they
they
have-
just get turned into a restaurant, right?
Correct.
One of the things that I just recently went to an American car wash out there, cost me $40 for a car wash. And it's not reflected, of course, we don't serve them, but I mean, it's not reflected in the cost that you see here. So they're dealing with other inflation issues rather than just water.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the car wash. Car wash, we do have that in this document, but they do have to have an interceptor to basically baffle off all the suds and things like that and try to condense that. So they are required to do some type of elementary, and I call it elementary because it's really just an interceptor to take those types of thing off. But they use so much water. Their
That's
content,
been in place for quite a while, hasn't it?
yes, it has. It has.
And the cost of a car wash has gone up significantly greater than that charge would be, and it's
Absolutely. And the amount of water that it takes, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about 345 in this particular case, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
$40 for a car wash. Unbelievable.
Any other questions about non-commercial or non-residential? Okay. At this point, we start talking about outreach and some of the efforts that Marion has already started doing, as well as the Clear Committee. So I will turn this over to her.
Thank you, General Manager Macy. So first, we'll talk a little bit about the Help to Others program. We talked somewhat about this at our workshop, but the Help to Others program was something that the district worked with the United Way to create. And this is based on revenues that are not they're not from rates. So we do provide this money to the United Way to be able to provide it to our customers. And there are definitely some eligibility requirements, including income qualifications that they must meet. Those income qualifications are basically, it's 400% of the federal poverty level is what those are actually based on. I know in the past I've seen it, generally speaking, it was usually based on 200%. Sometime within the last couple years, more agencies have moved to this 400%, and I think it's because of California's increase in cost of living. But they do have to come in, they have to show some sort of state-issued ID, proof of gross annual income, and then they have to have their statement when they go to apply. This is a kind of showing you where we fall within the other districts within the Coachella Valley. We are at the minimum right now at the $100 one time per 12 months that they can receive a credit towards their water bill. This is kind of some general information. I mentioned last time that we've seen a decrease in the amount of customers taking advantage of the program. Looking back from fiscal year 2022 through 2025, you can see where we have dipped down lower. Part of me believes that some of this is because there is some work to apply, and I think some residents don't feel the need, they don't want to go through the hoops for $100. And I do believe by raising this up, we will get more subscriptions. So right now we allocate $25,000 annually for the Help to Others program. And we have not seen the $25,000 be fully expended as far back as what we have records back through fiscal year 2022. From our cell phone towers, which is where we actually bring these funds from, we receive about $104,000 each year from our cell phone tower revenues. The question was asked, what other uses do we have for those cell phone revenues? We use it for things like our sponsorships and our holiday parade. In total, we use about $25,000 per year for those other other features or other functions. So we still have about $80,000 in non-rate revenue available to us for the Help to Others program. One of the other things that we're not accounting for in here is our natural gas station, the CNG station. We are also receiving some monthly revenues from that. We may not be renewing that contract, and so I did not include that. Safely, though, we can say we have about $80,000 a year that we can tap into to help fund this program. With $80,000, if we were to raise it to a $200 pledge annually, that would be about 400 families annually that could be helped. Or if we went up to the 250, we'd be at 320 families that could be helped. I also would like to see, and I've already spoken to Arturo about making sure that we have this on our GM report monthly as part of, or we can put this on part of our monthly finance report, and we can adjust this at any time, and we can include messaging when we are promoting this that, that it's as funds are available. I've worked at other agencies where we have had that kind of messaging on our applications or on our website, so that if we did get into a point where we've expended all of our funding and we still have a month to go, we can pause the program, but we can also look at other options and see if we can find other places where we can cut from and move money here, knowing that that was a concern from the board.
And I have a quick question on that, just kind of how does their account need to, if they have an account in good standing, say they have a $90 bill and they apply and we made it 200, are they getting another $110 credit towards future bills?
They will get the full amount, the full pledge amount. So if it's $100, but they only have $90 that they're owed, the whole $100 will go to the account, and then the next month they can apply that $10 towards their bill. We don't have like a monthly offset. I would love to have something where they were seeing it every month. They were seeing that discount, like a 10% discount on their bill. But from an accounting perspective and with the United Way, the administration on that costs would eat into too much into our program. So this works better if we do a one-time pledge and it lasts, and then it just goes in as a credit on their account.
But they don't have to have a delinquent account.
They do not have to have a delinquent account.
I have a question. Could you go back to the slide where it showed that you're in, there we go. Number of people in the household, one, maximum combined annual income of $62,250. The last time that we went to one of those economic that the chamber puts on there, what's the proper word there?
The event.
The Economic Summit.
Economic Summit, yes, thank you. I think our average or the median household income was somewhere around $35,000. So I find these numbers here to be, I don't quite understand why don't we have more people with that medium income coming and looking for help? How many people are actually behind on their bills, just offhand? And then how come it's so much money here you can make to receive that assistance?
See if I can find those numbers again. So you can see we have had a decrease in participation. I do think that it is intimidating to a lot of folks to have to provide proof of income, to have to provide their driver's license, and then also to go through the process of applying. That's why if you look in fiscal year 2023, that was the year that we actually did signups in this room. And each of the days that we did signups, we got between 30 and 35 customers to actually sign up. And that was with standing room out the door. But I went back and looked at the numbers from those events, thinking that we must have had hundreds of people sign up during those events. They were half-day events, and we still only signed up 30 families during those. So
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So you can just see that there is some process to that. I do think we can do more as far as, I know we have it on all of our, when someone falls late and they get a late payment, there is a message on their bill statement that mentions the program. We multiple times a year, we put it in the bill stuffers. We put it on social media. There's flyers and signs in the lobby. But really, it takes that touch of a customer service rep stepping someone through on how to apply or coming in person to do it. I really think that that's the way we're going to actually get more subscription. It's probably not going to be from a top-down marketing perspective. It's going to have to be grassroots, and there's going to have to be handholding.
My next question is, this is for people who are renting also, correct?
It's for the account holder,
For the account holder, which would be the renter or the landlord.
depending on whose name the account is under.
Okay. And I appreciate you. I think you already know what direction I'm going with this. You helped out one of our customers who's a large landlord owner here in town. And so now I'm thinking, how can we contact people like that gentleman who was having trouble with some of his tenants not paying? So can't the landlords let their tenants know that this program is here, and can we reach out to those landlords?
So we have done some of that outreach. I'm thinking of a woman about a year ago who had several customers who qualified for the program. And we worked with her and with her clients or her renters to try to get them to actually fill out the paperwork and become eligible. They're not always willing to fill out the paperwork. There's a bit of a barrier there. The homeowner, he probably will not qualify. He probably makes more than this, so he would not qualify. But the renter, it's very possible that they could take advantage of the program. And we have had renters who have taken advantage of the program and gotten caught up using the program.
So then the landlord would have to put something in their lease or rental agreement that, yeah, this is there, and if they don't do it.
I'm going to ask Arturo, if it's not in the renter's name, is there a mechanism for that still to work?
Usually no, because we do need it to be under their name,
Right.
to be able to qualify.
And
But keep in mind also that we're talking about rates. We cannot help one tenant for multiple properties by spending the time and effort that we have to spend for everyone at the district.
I understand that. So when the landlord makes up his rental or he or she makes up their rental or lease agreement, they could put in there that if they do fall behind and they do not ask for the help and fill out the paperwork, then I guess it's a legal question that the landlord, that would be cause for immediate eviction or 30-day notice to vacate the property.
As soon as one customer goes late, we include in the late bill the information for United Way, including a flyer. So every time an account goes late, they get that information.
Correct. I understand that part too. I guess it would be more of the landlord's responsibility to make sure that in their lease agreement to let them know that this is available.
Right.
And if they don't take advantage of it, it may be costly.
When a tenant goes late, the owner gets a bill as well.
Right.
So that information is there. The owner's getting that information.
Okay. The General Manager Champion knows why I'm getting to that point there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vice President, you had a question?
I have two questions. One, how many could we help if it was only 150?
I haven't done the math. Brian's got his calculator out. 80,000.
500 something,
Yeah, 80,000.
90,000 would be 600.
533 participants.
I kind of like that number better, but let me throw this out there. Given the documents that you have to have, I think it's very feasible that there would be some people right now that would be very fearful, considering where they may think this information would go. I'm assuming this does not go, since it's United Way, to the federal government. So what can we do to kind of touch on that subject without causing a lot of controversy?
I think the best way would be when our customer service agents are selling the program or talking about the program with those customers, to let them know. And we could get some type of privacy statement from the United Way that shows their policy on this. And that way, if anyone had any questions, we have a legal document to point them to. And then we can also just get verification with the United Way. What is their What is their sharing? We do not receive any of the income information from the United Way, and that's one of the reasons we use a third-party agency like the United Way. So we're not collecting those income documents from the customers. We're not doing the income verification. It's on the United Way, and it's part of the administrative fees we pay for them for that service.
Okay, just something to think about.
I do like that.
Is it like Lift to Rise? Is that the rental place?
That's for rentals.
I know, but would that not also be an organization to at least reach out to find out a way to reach certain audiences without causing any fear?
So there's Lift to Rise, which we were very active with back towards COVID and right coming out of COVID. They have expended all of their funds for utilities right now. But there's also Catholic Charities. Every once in a while, we'll get a pledge from Catholic Charities. There's also there's a Jewish Foundation Federation that also will provide money at times. So there's a lot of other agencies, but this is the one that we actually directly support.
I'm thinking less of support and more of outreach.
We're good.
And I guess while we're on it, I'll just say I like that 150 number as well. Did you have something, Director?
Please, I agree. I do agree with that. But I do have a question. I know the numbers are going down last year to this year. What happens if they don't, so they get their water shut off, right? And we notify their property owner, if they're a renter, that their water's been shut off, right?
We actually, if it's a rental and there's a property owner, when it becomes past due, we start notifying the property owners. So before it's shut off, the property owners know that they're behind.
There's just some.
It takes about 80 to 83 days before we get through our process.
I'm just, my brain is going about elaborating on Vice President Griffith's train of thought, and also thinking about if they're saying no to the help, are they going without water with kids at home? Right. So that's a concern that comes to mind for me. So I would like to see us finding ways to make it used, right? I mean, 80 people for the year is pretty low, given that we've had so many people that were not paying their bills and ended up on property taxes and liens and et cetera. So it's concerning that they're not taking the help. So we do need to find a way to make that help safe. But I'd also like to know what resources are being worked with United Way for those people that are applying. Are they giving them anything else as well?
Typically, yes. So you actually kind of led me into my next slide, which is a resource fair that we're partnering with the City of Desert Hot Springs to bring here to town. And I've already got the United Way enlisted to be there. They'll be able to sign people up for the Help to Others program right there in person, but they're also going to be offering other United Way services that they have. They will help them from things like childcare, utilities, even car repairs. They have different funds of money that they can tap into. And that's part of what they're going to be here. They're not just going to be representing the Help to Others program at this resource fair. They're going to be all of their United Way services. And so that event right now has been earmarked for October 28th. It'll be at the Desert Hot Springs Recreation Center from 5 to 8 p.m. And we are still looking for other agencies. We'll probably go to Lift to Rise. We'll be looking for the Riverside Community Action Partnership. They do the LIHEAP utilities. And so we'll be trying to get all of those agencies to come out and also provide resources as well. So it'll be more than just the Help to Others program, which is similar to what we did last time.
We may want to notify Congressman Calvert's office, since he's on the Appropriations Committee, he should probably see where some of his constituents need help. Maybe their staff should know. But any of the representative staff in this area should know.
One of the things that we've worked very closely with our federal advocate is regarding Senator Badia's efforts to fund the LIWAP program and things like that. So we always try to do as much as we can, but we can always do more, and we take that to heart. Thank you.
I think we're, yep.
Okay. And moving on, just to talk a little bit about community engagement. I know Monday we'll continue to discuss, but really we've just at the beginning of the community engagement process. We've had our clear committee. They've made recommendations. Should the board decide to move forward and allow us to move forward, we would be looking at doing a mailer, a Prop 218/AB 2257 mailer that would go out to all customers and property owners within our service area. That would go out tentatively right now on August 26th, so a week from next Tuesday. And then that would give us the time to move forward into our meetings. From there, we would be right now I've tentatively scheduled 4 community meetings that are sponsored by MSWD. One at the Carl May Center, the Desert Hot Springs Library, here in our boardroom, and then up at Mission Lakes Country Club. These would be MSWD sponsored meetings, but going out into the community, trying to meet them where they are again. From there, then we would also be looking to some of the organizations and the HOA meetings within the city. So these would be already established meetings that we would be going out and doing a presentation, getting time on their agendas, everything from the Rotary, the Women's Club, Jewish Family Services. I did just hear, I believe, the DHS Senior Center while we were sitting here. I think they locked in on October 18th. So we've got feelers out, and as soon as we get more of these dates, we'll be able to provide that to the board, but we'll keep a running list on our website as we add more and more dates here. And of course, in our Prop 218 mailer, we'll also have a little message on there. If you belong to an HOA or an organization and you'd like us to come out and present to your group, we would be happy to come out and do that. And that's about all I have for the community engagement.
Any other questions?
And I don't know if we didn't ask the clear committee if they wanted to come up and speak.
If I may, before you do that, General Manager Macy, President Sewell, members of the board, I have never worked with someone more engaged than Brian Macy. And it was tough at times pulling my hair. You can see where I'm going bald. I'm just kidding. But then you hear him talk to the community and be part of those meetings, and it was pretty amazing to see the information that was being shared and presented, and then that engagement, truly understanding what they were there for, and hearing them and listening to their concerns. It was pretty amazing to see. And then you add Assistant Manager Champion. It was amazing. Yep.
Thank you, Arturo. And speaking of them, do we have any clear committee members that would like to come up and bend our ear?
Hi, I'm Tom Engler. I am the very respected financial person on our team.
Also,
make a couple-
also a Leo and a common birthday. Thank you very much.
And a common birthday. They've created this is the kind of work I used to do in industry. They have a very nice model that they built, a very robust tool that I think, from the way we looked at it, gives us a different kind of insight than maybe in the past. So I hope that it'll be able to be leveraged as you go forward. We talked a lot as a committee about the need to make a fairly aggressive move on the rate. And that's certainly reflective of the 7, 8, 9%. What I think you can do with the model is midterm, be able to reset the data and get a sense of where you're going. Because there's a lot of conservatism built into the modeling that, with a few years experience, may allow you to adjust the rates in the out years down a little bit. So as you think about the 7, 8, 9, the complexity of Prop 218, don't set it too low, because you're going to throw away a lot of really good work. We did have a lot of discussion, as we just did with the help to other, about a way to mitigate the negative impacts of this needed increase. So I think I'm happy that you spend as much time looking at those details, because we do need to continue to fund for this resource that we all so depend on. We also had a little bit of a discussion one night about the building. We've hardly mentioned it at all in the discussions. I think it's really important. Your staff deserves a decent place to work. And this is the first time I was in this building. First visit was a little shocking, to be honest. We did have a discussion one night about not wanting to build a Taj Mahal because there's a public perception issue that's got to be dealt with. The one thing I wanted to be an architect as a child, so I have a special feel for buildings and the importance of public spaces. So don't cheap out. We looked at the footprint of it really quickly. One thing I don't think is conceptually planned to take advantage of the meeting spaces that may be incorporated in that building. Also, you have a very nice xeriscape garden plant. It only works, it's only valuable if you have people coming in to look at it. So, and as a member of a couple organizations, we never have places to meet. It's hard in Desert Hot Springs. We don't have a space to do 50 people or 50 people with, TVs and projectors, et cetera. So make it a nice facility, open it up, build your foot traffic. And if it looks nice, that's great. Doesn't have to be a Taj Mahal, but it should look good. So thank you.
Thank you. No.
My name is Barbara Valadez. I moved here approximately 3 years ago. I came from West Covina, California. My husband wanted to live here. Unfortunately, he didn't make it and he passed. Many challenges. I so appreciated being a part of this committee because I learned so much. I just want to briefly touch on program that the people here in Desert Hot Springs are not applying for. Many are Mexican. I know this because 3 of them come to my home, do things for me because there are a lot of things I can't do because of some physical disabilities. I talk to them all the time. I get them by the hand and I'm like, no tengan vergüenza, we're going to do this, but it is hard because they are afraid. And I think that's the majority. I personally, since I've been here, I'm not ashamed to say, I've applied for the program 3 times. It's so helpful. When I call the water district and I get somebody in customer service, they are so helpful. I could say, hey, guess what? I'm looking for such and so. Oh, okay, here's this program. Well, you know what? What about, oh yeah, here's this other program. Any program that is out there, trust me, I'm applying. So I truly believe that really is what it is. They're just afraid and they're very embarrassed. So yeah. So we can find a way to try to help that way. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say again, thank you all for your participation and the hours that you spent. It's really gone a long way to help us kind of get a better feel for the rates. So thank you. I know we're late into this conversation, but would we still be comfortable kind of just talking opinions to better understand where we each at over the weekend to make Monday easier? Or would we rather just push that to Monday?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Are you comfortable with the increase and would you prefer 768 or 79?
I would prefer Monday because it is a public hearing and I think that's a better place to have those, but
It's not a public
It's not a
hearing.
public
No,
hearing?
we're just doing a resolution. The public hearing would be when we actually,
we have to do the rates.
which is in October.
Um,
So general discussion either day, and as we talked about, we can modify it right up until
I would say Monday, but that's just me.
Okay.
I'll digest a little bit.
I'm willing to say I feel comfortable with moving forward with the Clear Committee's recommendations, and I don't want to cheap out, and I don't want my kid being responsible for this 20 years from now, like some residents are today, because the fear has been raising rates, raising rates, raising rates. We can't do it. We can't do it. We have to cover our costs. We have to be responsible for what things cost us as a community, for what they cost us as a family, as a resident. And we have to be responsible for that. And we can't count on programs and other people and other entities and states. We have to be able to figure out how to do this for ourselves. And so I, at this point, in this juncture, agree with the CLEAR Committee's recommendations.
I think, I think we should go with the Clear Committee's recommendation also. It's a very difficult thing, raising rates for anything, especially with the price of where everything is at. I did speak with one gentleman here about a month ago, one of our residents, and I told him, well, we haven't raised the rates in 5 years. And his response was, I don't want them to go up at all. And you know that it just can't happen. And another gentleman saw me wearing a watch one day, and he says, well, I see things are going good for you over at the water district. I bought it at a yard sale, and I noticed that it wasn't even running after he left. So the perception, you know, what do we, it's a difficult thing for everybody. And I think that taking the CLEAR Committee's recommendation kind of takes a little heat off of me. So thank you all for making that recommendation. You've done a wonderful job, and I think it's very wonderful that you folks have got involved, learned every aspect of this, been here for our meetings to see what the board has to say about everything. And I think it's really important that we've all worked together as a team, and our staff has worked very well with you and the board. And thank you for that.
Thank you. And I'll just try to make mine brief. I definitely think I'm leaning to the 7.9. When I first saw the 6.8 number, I didn't like that it was that high. But I think digesting it more and seeing that 27% inflation just from our last rate increase, that number is going to get bigger by year 5. It's really not as big an increase as it seems to be. And I wasn't here. I think Danny might have been here, but 2008, and I think we had a lot of lean years where we did a lot of deferred maintenance, and it ended up costing us more money in the long run. So come 2030, none of us will know who's going to be on the board, or if any of us at all. If I could guarantee we had the same board, I think we work together well, and an 8% would still get us there. But just seeing the numbers, that 9% gives us that extra couple years of wiggle room. And that's my leaning as of now. So just thank you again. Thank you to staff. And do we want to do a 5-minute recess? It's been a long meeting so far. And if the CLEAR Committee wants to skip out on the rest, we won't hold it against you. So we'll take a quick recess and come back for the remainder. Did we already start recording? Okay. With that, we'll reconvene and move on to item 11, Enterprise Agreement for the ESRI Advantage Program. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute a 1-year ESRI Small Utility Enterprise Agreement for the ESRI Advantage Program in the amount not to exceed $62,150. General Manager?
Thank you, President Sewell, members of the board. I will ask Ryan, our GIS coordinator, provide a short presentation on this item. Ryan, go ahead.
GIS coordinator. Did I just get a promotion from GIS specialist?
I guess I'll ask Danny to come up for titles as well.
For anybody watching out in the public, my name is Ryan Goodner-Bell. I am the GIS specialist here at Mission Springs Water District. Thank you, General Manager Macy, and good afternoon, President Sewell, and greetings to the board. My presentation this afternoon is regarding specific planning to build strategic focus and efficiency for the future of MSWD GIS technology. And I am hereby requesting that MSWD invest in the ESRI Advantage program. This will be an addendum of $62,150 to the current annual ESRI small utility licensing cost of $28,400 per year, and we are in the third year of that contract. To preface the Advantage program, I'll show you a quick GIS update. The GIS system has been a great asset for MSWD. The GIS was, in this first example, used to update the California Integrated Water Quality System report for the Horton plant and was pivotal in providing the very first report for the Nancy Wright Regional Plant. As you can see from the numbers from the Nancy Wright Regional Plant report, the numbers included the population served by the new wastewater facility, miles and diameter of service collectors, years of installation by decade, and the number of service laterals. The next update, we're really excited to share this, is the vertical asset preventative maintenance copy that I recently downloaded from CityWorks. Andy Grunett's team was able to complete the first cycle of work orders at the new plant, and the first version, as you see here, Joey McElroan was our all-star work order completer. And this is one of the products that we'll be pulling from CityWorks and putting into completion reports as they come up. The next example is in recent months, I have created 2 application prototypes. This is an example of the capital improvement project application. It is a parallel presentation to the capital and debt report that is currently published on our website. In addition to this foundation phase where the right side will be scrollable to click on all of our CIP projects, and the left side will have pictures of the actual project and all the information regarding that project. Phases 2 and 3 will incur capabilities to create the fact sheets that are found on our website currently automatically and on the fly as management are given the capability to update that information when needed. The last example is a screenshot from the prototype for our public viewer application that will be replacing our existing link on the website. This advance will reflect our new utility network now set up in our enterprise GIS, and it will give additional feature selection capabilities throughout MSWD service territory. This application includes tabs for board districts, water system, sewer system, subbasins, and assessment districts. The new public viewer is an end of summer goal to go live, linked on the website after management review. So moving into the Advantage program presentation, this is a critical package supplement to appropriate the next steps for MSWD GIS. This program covers up to 100 hours of direct time and expenses normally charged by Esri consultants for major technical improvements, continued education to adapt my knowledge to changing technologies as the GIS subject matter expert for MSWD, strategic planning for overall MSWD GIS services, and other integration services to polish data transfer between GIS, asset management, and the upcoming ERP system. The best part of this program is that I may quickly contact Esri staff directly for extended questions, more innovative approaches, or quick fixes that they may have at the ready. Our critical juncture and realized need for this program is the rapidly approaching end of the current vendor contract, which is June 1st, 2026. This will now require a new RFP that will implement narrowed services requirements for the next vendor. Specifically for cloud services required for the existing ESRI enterprise deployment, in addition to accessibility and extended use of the cloud environment for other purposes. Both the MSWD Information Technology Manager, Kurt Kettenacher, and I agree that there are always elevated security concerns for transferring services from one cloud service to another. And we would like the assurance that no critical step is missed in the cloud IT infrastructure transfer. We will consider this and other steps when deciding the respondents to the revised RFP that we are hoping to release by December. The advisory meetings with Esri staff granted by this program will need to be conducted beginning in the fall of this year to complete that goal. The future implication for MSWD GIS with the Esri Advantage program is that we will have better ability to minimize or even eliminate the need for third-party GIS vendor expenditures, generate a transparent dialogue between MSWD and Esri, and provide a security blanket in such cases of unforeseen technological changes or a natural disaster response. And I bring up the natural disaster response as the Esri Advantage program just celebrated its 20-year anniversary. And the County of Sonoma was an Esri Advantage program participant when the 2017 wildfires affected that county and the city of Santa Rosa. Now, the benefit there was their GIS staff actually had Esri staff assisting in that emergency response to create applications and rapidly collect data. So the measure of destruction from that wildfire could be rapidly calculated, accounted for, and budgets could be created, and reports could be sent to FEMA in a better and more efficient fashion. So that is my presentation for the program. I thank you for your time. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions, Director Martin? Director Hoffman?
So what would happen if we voted no on this?
Well, if we voted no on this, I'm a one-man show, and the foundation is laid for the GIS, but keeping track of the technological changes and noticing that there are associates with ESRI that know of cheaper options to host our enterprise services are out there. And it's a better resource for gaining access to those resources, not only from ESRI, but from other organizations that participate in the Advantage program. So normally information that would be under a non-disclosure agreement with other organizations, I can actually gain access to.
Cheaper isn't always the best. So this is a software program that we're really updating here is what you're asking us to do.
Exactly.
I wasn't insinuating I was going to vote in either way, but yeah, I understand the importance of it, and the software, that intellectual copyrights is expensive. It's necessary. There's only thing we can do. Thank you.
Director Duff?
Thank you for your presentation. Very thorough. I appreciate that. I actually just had two questions. It refers over and over to 50 learning and services credits being included in this program, but it also talked about technology webcasts. I'm big on making sure that all of our team members have equal opportunity to be educated and understand the software they're using. Is this adequate for you to be able to provide this as training to some of our staff members? Or is this all just 50 hours for you?
No, this is actually district-wide.
And is it enough?
It is more than enough.
Okay.
each hour actually counts for 2 hours of service.
Okay.
So in addition, we have 50 credits for that account for the 100 technological services that would be like consultant driven, and the other 50 hours are meant for the entire district.
Okay, great.
So since my knowledge is advanced enough, one example that did come up yesterday was our engineering team is needing to move off of the old ArcMap version of GIS and move forward to the ArcGIS Pro version of the desktop software. And this will allow for additional courses to get them up to speed with using that new software and combining it with, say, AutoCAD data from engineering drawings.
Right. And then thank you for that. That's a great answer. And then my second question, it talks about on 5.7, the travel and per diem expenses. And I hate the 15% markup, but regardless of that, it talks about the customer using learning and service credits for travel per diem expenses. The customer is us, right? We wouldn't be traveling anywhere to meet Esri or meet with Esri. So this is just like covering their bases. There's nothing that you're expected to go to.
That's correct.
Okay. That's what I needed to clarify. Thank you so much.
Vice President? Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how many staff hours will this take for the updated training? Any idea?
For me, the updating training will be minimal. The additional staff hours would be, for example, engineering, for the IT director, for our business analyst, and so forth, who are GIS 101, but our business analyst has made leaps and bounds, and we actually have some capable technology that a lot of other districts do not have yet.
So now we can get to how many hours approximately. I'm sure General Manager Macy's already looked at that additional training time if he's going to have to hire another staff member or to cover something. So better that I think General Manager Macy probably is better prepared to answer that.
Well, from a training perspective, there are certain things that we already get with the base coverage, but that it is a base coverage. We pay for a web service, we pay for the application that we use. This allows us to get a more advanced training and provided through us through this program. So from that perspective, it opens up more doors for us. While they always are trying to sell us a service, this is more of a selling us a service, but also tailoring it to our needs. And I think that's when they start talking about training. The training actually is designed to help us further our own capabilities, but it's also to allow them to learn our systems so they can better provide us additional resources.
I understand that part of it. So let me rephrase the question.
Okay, sorry.
If I was an engineer and I needed this updated training, how many hours of that updating training would I need?
That is dependent on the training that's applicable to that. One of the things, in addition to what they were just talking about in upgrading, those types of things for engineering, a lot of our stuff is still on paper using a variety of different things. Our GIS through Survey 123 can allow us to go to a paper format and things like that. And that's thanks to some of the things that the business management analysts as well as Ryan made reference to. So the training is there. It's just additional training and it's based on whatever that particular application is.
So if any of your staff members fall behind because they're taking this training, you'll just go ahead and cover for them?
I won't go quite that far. We'll work together to make sure all of our needs are met, both in-house and out.
I know that some of this is kind of hard for me anyways to grasp something new on a computer program. And
I think where you'll see the value is one of the things that he brought up was, the budget process. When you look in our document, we have those forms. There's a GIS map. There's got a lot of costs and things that are associated. By putting it into this format, it's a click of a button when we go to the budget, but not also just a static document that is in the budget. Now it's going to be something that's going to be on our website. We have a very robust GIS system through the Nobel system, but you could see just by appearances and differences in talking about the layers that we can provide, there's going to be more tools for not only our staff, but also outside developers, business owners, and things like that to look into our systems and see that. Now, granted, that comes with a little bit of a grain of salt, because while we're trying to make it more transparent and more things available, we also still security and things of that nature, because we know some of that information has to be protected, both infrastructure, key infrastructure for us as well. So you're still going to see some areas where you won't see photography, or you'll just see a block box, because you don't want to see that verbatim, but it's going to allow us to be a better product, a better user experience for our customers.
Right, I've always been for this. When our former general manager was here, this started, and I was in favor of it. And so I think the cost for the software and the budget has that extra man-hour time for the training. I think it's great. Thank you.
And hopefully my question's quick. You mentioned the 28 or whatever it is for the existing ESRI contract. That's like an ongoing annual expense to have the software.
That is the ongoing license expense for the GIS enterprise itself.
Where this is going to be like a bonus to get us better at using.
That's
And then come next year when that ESRI contract ends, if we were to decide to go with a different vendor, is this training going to be kind of useless, or would it help us even if we're using a different vendor?
So it will help us even if we're using a different vendor. Yes, the ESRI license cost is still going to be there, but the current vendor contract with our consultant, Timmons Group, one of the examples that I did find out at the ESRI user conference was that their hosted AWS services are approximately $38,000 a year included in that contract, where another consultant would provide us with the same information, the same system and additional capabilities for $10,000 a year less.
Wow.
So that's some of the information that, you know, our ESRI rep can connect us with faster, and we have a more inside track to talk to those other vendors that are competitors, and have an inside track to actually talk to the customers that they serve that normally we may not get access to.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ryan. We'll move on to item 12, approval of contract with Corona Environmental Consulting for preliminary design of chromium-6 treatment facilities. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. I'll ask our Director of Operations, Denny Friend, to provide some insight and a presentation on this. Denny?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon once again, President Sewell, members of the board. I may refer to that. So today we are looking at the next step in our Chrome 6 strategy that we've been talking about since early 23, more specifically July 23. Corona Environmental, specifically Chad Seidel and his team, has been working with us since July to address the presence of chromium-6. We were moving in or advancing into the design or the PDR of treatment facilities for key well sites. As you remember, some of those key sites were 27, 29, 31, and well 37. They have produced results exceeding 10 micrograms per liter, or as we commonly use, parts per billion. We have 4 additional wells historically over 8 micrograms per liter, 22, 24, 32, and 33. You may remember that in the last 6 months, one of those wells has increased. So some of the information that we're going to be looking at may change. We may have to take one of the 4 historical wells historically showing above 8, 80% of the MCL. We may have to advance one of those sites, but more importantly, they have supported the district since July 23, helping develop a compliance strategy, interim operations plan. As you're aware, we've had wells offline, so we've been working with them to see how we can get through that process, starting back in December 6, 2024, and guiding the district's planning process, collectively known as the roadmap. Chad Seidel and his team has presented several times to the board, and has referred to that roadmap and showed us our trending. Excuse me. The proposed contract will initiate preliminary design work, including evaluation of treatment options, facility layout, cost estimates, more specific coordination with staff on the interim plan until we figure out when we are going to be starting to bring these on. You've heard the general manager speak today on, and in the past on when we will be bringing some of those capital projects on. Bench scale testing, pilot testing, RCF treatment systems. You may recall RCF is the reduction, coagulation, and filtration, which is in the treatment process that is likely the most effective for us, the most economically and the most effective for the district, and as well as permitting support. Corona Environmental Consulting was selected through the district's engineering services RFP that we issued back in March of 2023. Which pre-qualifies the firm for technical assignments. Although this contract was not part of a separate RFP, the selection was identified as the most qualified firm based on their experience and prior work developing the Chromium-6 roadmap, as I spoke to earlier. Pro's contract initiates preliminary design for treatment facilities of certain wells, which I explained earlier, and facility layout and cost estimates. This approach builds on the existing work and ensures continuity and efficiency. Attachment A is the contract and the proposal, which provides a deeper look into what Corona will be providing. But essentially, we're going to be looking at deliverables of draft and final PDR or preliminary design report, draft and final pre-purchase equipment specifications, identification of required permitting. It'll also include bi-weekly meetings for interim operations plan. And some of the things, if you recall in our presentations with Corona, was consolidated RCF for wells 27, 31, 29, and 37, and 22 and 24, and then individual treatments at wells 32 and 33. I realize I don't have a map on the screen showing you where they're located, but I can do that on Monday. I am happy to say that Chad Seidel, the president, principal in charge of Corona Environmental, is on the call and is ready to actually mention a few things. Chad, are you hearing us?
Yes, indeed.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to continue to support the district. Thank you and board for being willing to hear this. Obviously, our commitment is to address the compliance needs that the state has implemented on water systems that have water supplies that have hexavalent chromium exceeding the reinstated maximum contaminant level of 10 micrograms per liter. We have been active and engaged in addressing this issue for several water utilities across the state and bring that knowledge and understanding to really just get to the point and address the needs that you have as best as possible, as efficiently and effectively as possible, and leverage that information that we've got working with you all as well as others there in the valley and across the state. Happy to answer any technical questions or other aspects of how this is working out as we see it playing out real time. We've got staff actually working at other locations in the valley right now, testing some of the same treatment processes that would be expected to be implemented for you all, and are ready to support your needs with the resources necessary.
Thank you, Chad. I too I'm able to answer any questions regarding the contract or details, or so is Chad. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Danny. Director Duff?
Thank you both. For staff, I just noted there may be a typo on the second page of the contract where it says shall not exceed the amount. It's not including the 10% contingency. And I thought the shall not exceed amount is supposed to be the 702. And the one in my book says 638,370.
I'm sorry, Director Duff. I have it
Under
open now.
4.01 contractor compensation, item number 4 on what was page 2 of attachment A. If it's not supposed to include the contingency and they're writing out the contingency as a not to exceed prior to, I'm okay with that. I just thought,
Either way, we can work through this by going through the staff report and authorizing the amount that gives staff to increase that particular 10%. But it would require us to do a staff administrative effort with our contract analyst. So I believe it's correct by approving the staff report, and the item gives us the ability to increase that contract by 10%.
okay.
The contract would allow the contractor to exceed the 638.
But it
Yeah.
says that what they can't exceed is 702,207.
In 4.01 that I have, it says 638,000.
Right.
So
That's so I'm just trying to ask, is it the staff report that's incorrect or the
No.
contract?
I think, well, the staff report says
Not to exceed
7.
contract amount of 702,207.
No, I think it's right. And then if the staff decides that they need to go over the 638, then they could do an amendment or
Okay.
administrative.
That's the key point, an amendment without having to bring it back to the board.
Okay.
But
Correct.
we
Yeah.
have the ability to say, you can't go over this amount to our consultant.
Okay.
And unlike some contracts where you say, okay, we're going to go over 10% and they go ahead and spend it. No, that mechanism is in place for that exact reason. If we do go over
Just
for
making
whatever
sure.
reason, the staff has the ability to do that without bringing it to the board.
Just making sure. And then
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch. I wasn't following what you were saying, but that's exactly.
it's okay. As long as we're all on the same page now and it was intended to be that way, great. And then for Chad, could you just do me a favor? And on the last page of Exhibit A, you guys provided a task description. Can you describe for me, I read in the contract or in your letter to Mr. Macy, I read your description of project management. I'm just trying to understand what your position or what your company's part of the implementation of the monitoring plan is. What does Corona do to implement here?
Well, I'll describe it as it has been operating with our limited support of the district over the last really year to two under the on-call agreement. We've worked really collaboratively in developing the plan, which means identifying what are the information needs the district has to fill to have the data to support the roadmap, as was described by Director of Operations, a friend here. And we then identify what laboratories can accomplish that, what analytical methods can be used, what frequencies should be used. We have routine updates on those aspects. So it's almost an extension of staff really to inform those details. And then staff are physically collecting those samples, analyzing them in that way. There's other aspects that are a part of this effort that will move forward that will include our staff physically on site performing testing for demonstrating the treatment of the water to remove chromium. That's detailed in some of the later tasks.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I was trying to ratify in my own mind based on my experience, and it was kind of reminding me of a clinical trial. A medical clinical trial, and there were certain steps that the consultant has to provide and implement as part of the whole plan in order for the plan to be able to be submitted. So I was just trying to understand what was meant by implementation, and your explanation was great. Thank you so much.
Great.
Vice President? Director Martin?
Yes. Chad, mine comes from more of a design aspect. I imagine that your treatment plant does take a little bit of the forever chemicals out or PFAS. If the state should say that we need to put in equipment to remove the PFAS, is your design to give it enough room to add that equipment prior to your equipment or after the equipment? Basically, are we planning for more equipment to be added onto this?
May I ask for some clarification? Are you talking about PFAS?
Yeah, PFAS, yeah. PFAS. I don't know, people say it differently, so I'm not sure which one.
There's different, but
PFAS.
that's the overarching.
I didn't have my hearing aids in when I watched that last time.
No worries. But before Chad provides an answer to that on the technology, I'd just like to say that the state has required us to remove it. However, fortunately for us, we don't have any PFAS in our system.
None.
None. Non-detect. Thank you.
Yeah, the sample results of the samples collected to date in those active well sites have all returned not detectable results using what is the appropriate method to sample for that for California waters these days.
Wow.
Non-detect. Thank you.
We're very lucky then.
Please.
We are.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Didn't mean to cut you off, Chad, on explaining where it would fit in that, but it's a non-issue. So
Well, if we have it in
Yeah.
the future.
I can speak to that point. So in every treatment evaluation, especially at this phase, so the intended effort of this is the preliminary design phase to understand what are the issues, what are the approaches to meet those needs and address those issues, and how then do those solutions, what do they cost, what are their scheduled, what are their operational implications for staff. We always account for how other requirements in the future may have impacts on that. And we assess how much space may or may not be available. It's one of the reasons why the roadmap calls out the possibility of centralized treatment where it may make the most sense because it gives a little bit more operational flexibility. The primary purpose of this is addressing the hexavalent chromium concentrations, which again are understood to be naturally occurring in the groundwater in the area there. Sampling to date has not identified other contaminants of concern in these wells where chromium-6 has to be addressed. So no co-occurrence of PFAS, no co-occurrence of other contaminants that are often found, whether it be arsenic or fluoride or uranium, those things, those are not present at concentrations that also need to be addressed in these wells. But we will look at the possibility of that maybe being an expectation in the future to have provisions for that accounted for.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
And I have nothing further, but thank you, Chad, for the presentation, and thank you, Dan.
thank you.
Item 13, acceptance of grant of easement deed for public utilities easement, Azure Palm Hot Spring Resort and Day Spa Oasis LLC. Vice President?
President Sewell, I am going to recuse myself since this is my employer.
Thank you.
And we will send a staff member once we complete this item to bring it back in the room. Thank you, Vice President.
Do we have to?
General Manager?
Thank you, President. So our engineering manager, Eric Weck, will give this presentation. Eric?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, President Sewell and members of the board. Item 13 of this afternoon's agenda pertains to the acceptance of a grant of easement deed for the Azure Palms Resort located along the south side of Hacienda Avenue. To serve as some background, at the request of the developer, the city of Desert Hot Springs vacated the right-of-way of Ortega Drive, which, as it happens, included an area where the district has a fire hydrant. And this grant of easement covers that area where it's shown in the yellow color. So during a routine inspection of district facilities, staff found that the Ortega Drive right-of-way was fenced off, prohibiting staff from accessing the fire hydrant. So staff proactively met with the property owner and has secured an easement allowing access to the district's facilities. This easement allows the district to retain ownership and control of that fire hydrant, and it comes at no cost to the district. Secondly, staff found a minor typo in the original grant of easement paperwork, and upon approval by the board next week, staff will resubmit a corrected copy of to the county recorder's office. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Eric. Director Martin? Director Meyerhoffen? Director Deb?
Thank you. Can you just clarify? I was reading your summary and it said that it's currently behind a locked gate. Is that going to remain the case, that it remains behind a locked gate on their private property and we're allowed access?
No, ma'am. As I understand it, on the PowerPoint slide I show here, where it says easement area. It is open, and I believe that property owner has turned that area into a parking area for use.
Okay.
So it is open and available for use and access to that fire hydrant.
Okay, my only concern was if we were taking over the property, would we then be responsible for the lock if it was locked and repeatedly got unlocked or broken or stolen or what have you? So with there not being any of that there, I don't have any other concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have nothing further. Thank you, Eric. Danny, could you let Vice President Griffith in? No worries. Thank you. Item 14, Association of California Water Agencies Aqua Region 9 election. General Manager?
Thank you, President Sewell. I'll ask our AGM, Marion Champion, take this item. Marion?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. In your packet is the nominating committee for Region 9's recommended slate of officers. We have the decision if we'd like to concur with that list or if we would like to nominate individual candidates for chair, vice chair, and et cetera. And also we have their board members and board president to submit on the ballot. And what I would ask is the board to decide if they'd like to go with the slate or if they would like to talk about this and go over individual. And that's up to the board's purview to decide how they want to move forward.
Okay. I'll start off. I think the slate is pretty well balanced and includes our very own, and I would be happy to go with the slate. Director Duff? Preference? Okay. Anything, comments, questions? Director Martin?
Yeah, regardless of how the election comes out, it was really an honor to be selected by the Region 9 nominating committee to be on the recommended slate for the 26-27 term. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Director Meyerhoffen? Great. And we'll make that determination on Monday. Moving on to discussion items. Item 15, administrative building update.
Thank you, President Sewell. We do have our consultant, Alvin Flores. There he is. Alvin, first of all, thank you for sticking around, for giving us the update. Appreciate, great seeing you. Please update us on the project.
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board, district staff. Last we met for an update on the Administration Building and Critical Service Center. We had discussed some of the city comments. So since then, we have been working through those comments with our team and discussing any additional items with the city. And we started our resubmittal process last week. So we resubmitted to Building and Safety, and we've also resubmitted to Planning. So at the moment, we just have Fire and Public Works left, which we're aiming to get back into the city early next week. And originally we were targeting September for approval. So as of now, we're still on track for that. And then from there, we'll be working with General Manager Macy and his team to start preparing for eventual bid of this project. So, and with that, if there's any other questions or comments.
Thank you, Alvin. Director Martin, Director Meyerhoffen, Director Depp.
Thank you so much for keeping us updated and for fighting for us. Do you happen to have a cost update?
I do. I just got an update from our consultant. We're still parsing through it, but right now it looks like we are at 34.9 million.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Let me just add to that very quickly. That number includes both buildings and the site development. One of the things that it also, if there's any, that also includes our staff time and anything goes with that. So when you look at the $40 million in the budget, it includes that as well as other things that's necessary for the project. I just want to make sure that that is not the only number that goes into our final budget number. But no, thank you, Alvin. Appreciate that.
No worries.
Vice President?
I know.
And a quick question to tag on to Director Duff's. That number is an estimate, and until we go out to bid, we won't know for sure. Have you had other projects you've been working on, say recently this year, maybe that how close are your estimates versus the bids coming in?
So far, things have been staying pretty tight. I know with the tariffs and other things, there's a lot of unknowns that have been thrown into this, but as of now, we're seeing everything being pretty, we'll just say normalized, not major swings in either direction. So, so as of now, we still feel pretty comfortable and confident with numbers. And yeah, as we get closer to bid and we're starting to see some fluctuations, we'll start working to build that in just to kind of ease into the expectations of where we're going into once we get closer to that time.
Okay, great. Thank you for the presentation.
No worries. Thank you.
Item 16, groundwater protection program update.
Thank you, President Sewell. We will do that today. Eric Wuck, our engineering manager, is prepared to give a quick update on the project. Eric?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm bringing up the presentation. There we go. Okay. Thank you, General Manager Macy, and good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board. Today's groundwater quality protection update touches on a few of the district's notable wastewater improvement projects. First would be the Nancy Wright Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facility. Staff has coordinated with the contractor to replace the dead landscaping. This work will be completed in the fall as part of warranty work to provide a better opportunity for the new landscaping to get established and take root. Staff is also preparing the second quarter quarterly report and reimbursement request. Switching over to the regional sewer conveyance line, staff has received, processed, and reviewed several submittals for the electrical and SCADA control system for the Horton diversion. And during this meeting, I did receive an email that additional submittals are forthcoming, and the contractor is will be beginning to remobilize to finish that last portion of the conveyance line in the next few weeks. Finally, for the Area M2 septic to sewer conversion project, it is currently out to bid now. And earlier this afternoon, we had to bump the bid opening date from the 15th to the 19th, which is next Tuesday, to accommodate for some additional questions from the bidders. But this still allows staff to present this to the board in September as an agenda item to award the contract to the lowest responsive bidder. Just note that this project also includes abandoning water lines and backyard easements, as General Manager Macy discussed earlier in this meeting, and placing new water lines in the street right-of-way, as well as replacing aging service lines throughout the service area. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Director Martin? Director Meyer-Hoffman? Director Duff? Vice President? Thank you very much, Eric. Moving on to consent agenda, does anyone want to pull either item 17, approval of minutes, or item 18, register of demands to discuss today?
No.
Right, we have register of demands. Director Duff?
I had a couple questions regarding some of our insurance charges that I'm noticing for the first time. Excess crime insurance and cyber liability insurance. Those appear to be new. Am I wrong or?
They are not new.
Okay.
We pay them every year around this time, and it's part of our insurance package with Aqua JPA.
What is the excess crime?
In case anyone were to any collusion between stealing and between writing checks to themselves, any of that type of fraud.
Interesting.
Usually.
Okay. And then I have a couple more, so don't go.
So it's not like you're good for 5 and this covers 6 and more?
Actually, that's basically what it stands for, yeah.
Okay, and then can you tell me who Canyon Springs Enterprises are?
Danny?
Sorry.
There's a question for Danny.
For our well 22 above ground rehab,
Oh.
we awarded the contract to Canyon Springs. They are the contractor that will be performing that rehab.
Just not ringing a bell, I guess.
It's been some time, so just some of the things that we've been challenging with like long lead times and some of those. So we did a notice to proceed after the awarded contract limited,
Okay.
just so that they can procure some of the long lead items. And then we will resume the contract. We just actually got a schedule where we're going to start January 2026.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's supply chain issues.
Gotcha.
And that
Yep.
project did go through the normal bidding process through OpenGov or through.
At that time was Planet Bids, but yes, it was
Yeah,
a formal bid process and we awarded to the lowest bidder.
So yes, when we awarded that, it'd been a long time because of some of the issues with the motor control center and other things. Yeah, it's just been that long.
Thank you for the clarification on that one. One more for you, DeGrave Communications Inc. Also one I'm not familiar with.
They are a new vendor. We did a request for proposal a couple months ago,
Okay.
and they will be helping us with our water quality outreach. And so they are developing videos, scripts, and materials for a late fall, early spring water quality campaign.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And then my very last thing on here is regarding, yes, Intelisys. I don't know if this is meant to be or not, but it says IT MSP licensing twice. Is that because we had to pay a back month and a current month? Because I've noticed that there's a lot of that in this last pay period where we were paying even some as late as February that we were just now paying. So that obviously draws my attention, but then when I saw a duplicate without any month, I just kind of wanted to verify, is it an accidental duplicate or on purpose?
I can take that. Yeah, so we pay our bill to Intelisys 1 month in advance. They charge us up front for what they're going to be doing. And so as part of that, I held the bill for July. Normally we'd pay July and June, but as that would have exceeded our annual contract amount,
Okay.
I held that and then we paid both August and July in the same month.
Because of the fiscal year changing. Okay,
Right.
thank you. That clarifies that for me. And aside from the noting the late payments that bother me a bit, and hopeful that we don't have any late fees for any of those. Other than that, that answers my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion on item 18? Okay. Item 19, director's reports. Do we want to do those Monday?
Monday.
Perfect. Item 20, general manager's report.
I'm going to take my cue from the board. We'll do that on Monday.
Okay.
All right.
Item 21, director comments and requests for future agenda items. Director Martin?
Just a lot of hard work by staff. That's really appreciated. I had a lot of concerns about the 5-year rate increase, and you guys went out of your way to really make sure that I understood what the issues were, and anyway, thanks a lot for the work you put on that.
Director Beinhardt?
It's good to know that, because there's been a lot of questions about forever chemicals and a lot of talk about it, and it's good to know that I'm glad that our customers now understand that we don't have any PFAS, and that I don't know. I see somebody smile. I got, never mind. It's good to know that, and that we're planning ahead and for the equipment in case it does come, and it more than likely will come. And it's something that we need to be aware of and what's going on with it. And I appreciate the participation that people do bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the key word of the day was detectable.
Yes.
Director Duff? Vice President?
I want to thank Director Duff for letting me taste the rainbow and bringing some Skittles.
And I'll just echo Director Martin's comments. Thank you to staff. I know there was a lot of work, all the items, but a lot went into the race study, and you really did make it easy for us to compare all the options. So thank you. And I'm getting ahead of myself. No comments? And we have no closed session. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.